Markel, how are you?
Good evening. How you doing, Walter? Doing well. How are
Doing,
you?
doing very well, thank you.
Good. Is
Great
this
week
just
so
us?
far. Pardon me?
I said, is this just us on right now?
I couldn't quite hear what you said.
Is
Oh
it just
yes,
us on
yes,
right now?
yes. I just joined, and you just joined right behind me. So yes, we're just the two of us so far.
Nice, nice. I'm having a good evening so far. No,
Outstanding.
I got some good news on the BPO, so I definitely want to ask you about that.
That's great. Look forward to talking to you about it. Gary, how are you doing this evening? I think his sound is off. Yeah, but we have a couple of exciting weeks ahead of us, so should be a good time for all of us.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely good times for all of us, without question.
Yes,
I think so. Is Gary's note taker is on, but Gary isn't in the meeting.
I see. Okay, I got it. Not a problem.
Yeah, so like I have a note taker as well, and my note taker typically logs in before me,
Sure.
and it just goes off of like the calendar, like whatever the calendar says. The note taker already knows to be there.
Outstanding, outstanding. Is that software? Is that an individual, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's a software. It's a software. It's like an AI tool to be
Oh,
able
great.
to take notes.
We,
Martin is on good.
Martin, how are you doing? You guys going to be teaching me all this stuff,
It's
so that's wonderful.
only
Martin,
right.
how's your day going, Martin?
Martin, you on mute, bro?
He's on mute. Yes. Yeah, tap. There
All
you
the time I'm over here talking, I'm like, yeah, I'm good, I'm good.
go. All right. Outstanding.
No, but the day's going great. Can't complain at all. Keeping things going, man.
That's wonderful.
Another day, another dollar, man.
There you
Another day,
go.
another.
There you go. Well, hopefully we expect to be doing quite a bit of that over the next several months. So
Oh,
you
yes,
guys
sir.
have some exciting times ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How's your day go? Week been good?
Day's been good. Yes, it has. And decent week as well.
It's good to hear. I was telling them about our event we have November 2nd. And I think that would be good for him to come out
Yes.
as well to, drop some wisdom, some game to everybody.
Yes,
Yeah, it's
indeed.
all right. I think that's a great idea, Martin. Heck yeah, it's only right, bro.
Whenever we can get that next level wisdom, man. Look, we don't get too many OGs to come around. So, what
Hey,
up, Aaron?
Hey, what's going on, y'all?
Aaron,
Aaron,
doing
what's
great things. Hope you are.
Oh yes, oh yes. Hey, it was a good Thursday, man. We had some good weather. Can't complain.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
what we do it every time.
Right. And it's October too, end of October. I said, okay, that's fine with me.
Yes, indeed.
Can't
Well, we need to take advantage of this while it lasts. That's for sure.
Exactly. Oh yeah, I was getting tired of all that rain too, but what can you
Yeah.
do?
Hey, just roll with the flow.
Oh yeah.
And no telling with North Carolina, boy. Might be
Right.
snowing tomorrow, man.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You never
Hey,
know.
next thing you know, I'm turning on the heat tonight and the
I'm
AC
trying to
tomorrow.
tell you,
Now, real talk.
right? It be winter at nighttime. It be
Man.
spring at like 1 o'clock, and
Yes.
then
Yep. That's it.
it be summertime at 3.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Hey, that nighttime it do be chilly, boy.
It be
Yeah.
I was like, that mug up a little bit.
Oh man.
Guys, we'll wait just a couple more minutes so we'll get started.
Okay.
Man, it's crazy. We had a handyman come over, like mount our TV, all this other stuff. He
Yes.
was like, bro, like, you in construction, why you ain't do it? I said, bro, when I come home, I just be wanting to chill, bro. Like,
Yeah.
I be I'm done, dog. The hat is off. Like,
the hat is completely off.
there's so many things change so quickly nowadays. I don't take it. I don't like to fix anything anymore. You're forced to make enough changes with phones and the computer at this point.
But
Yeah.
I promise you, I step foot in them doors. Yeah, nah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a wrap. I ain't out nothing. Go ahead, stay for it.
Well, we're going to get started, and we'll wait until I guess maybe one or two others will join us. I know that one or two are going to be off tonight, so that's going to be that's fine. But hope everything is going well for you guys, and we'll talk a little bit about our next step in this process. And as I said, the process when you're looking at the course itself, we'll give you just an overview of the most important aspects of real estate development. We can go as deep into any one of those as you want to, but for now, I think the most important thing is to kind of get you aware of the decision-making process. And we're looking, basically from top down. Really, it's just a nice bird's eye view, and the objective is to get you to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because as we get further into this, you're going to find that you're going to know a lot less than you think you know, and then and you've got to be in a situation where you at least have some idea of the questions that are asked during that process. A lot of the knowledge will be gained as you progress, and you'll find people at this point who are much more adept or in tune with any aspect of this process that you're wanting to engage in. But I'm more interested in making sure that you guys at least have an idea to understand what your goals are, know what you're looking to achieve, how you'll be able to wisely make decisions with your funds and financing, and be prepared for any possible setbacks you may encounter along the way, and be able to rebound and move forward. Now, for those of you, I think that I know Markel was there Saturday. But I think in the email I sent to you guys, you would have gotten the time or the investment analysis or cash flow forecast.
Yeah.
We had 5 choices, and I know that Aaron, I know you'll probably be very familiar with those scenarios. But I think that each of you wants to get familiar with um, just the choices you'll make. Now the question becomes, that particular scenario that I gave you, if you took those 5 examples. The question would be, what would your choice be as far as how you want to receive your money? Now, the reality is, if you took those scenarios and based, let's say, a certain amount of money at the beginning based on 10%, the amount is the same as the very last column. They're all $25,000 plus at the end of that period. And it's just a question of how you, in fact, receive your money. And those are the choices you're going to be making when you're using your various approaches to the real estate investment or real estate development process. And just think about those again. You're looking at cash flows. It's going to be the steady, sporadic, somewhat long term. If you receive, let's say, for example, certain amounts of money, if you want to get an idea of where you be, you can you'll look at we only go as far as you want to go into various compounding and discounting scenarios. Just know that you want to get an idea of what your funds are worth at any given point in time. So um, I think I like the fact that you guys are exploring possibilities of working with other investors, with partnering. Um, I think that one of the things we're going to work on is finding ways for you to maybe borrow from the funds you're getting from private individuals. Find ways of being able to borrow at slightly lower rates. I think your terms are good when you're getting, let's say that 1 or 2 years. That's pretty decent. But I think you can certainly do fairly well over time, and that's what we'll work toward over the next several weeks, of finding ways to be able to navigate that process and prepare yourself long term, where you're using very little of that additional money beyond just your base funding to be able to take care of your projects. Now, I'm going to ask a question at this point. If you guys, you probably heard this before, if you had a choice between, let's say, $1 a day I'm sorry, dollar today with that amount doubling every day, or you were given a choice of getting $1 million a day, which would you choose?
That dollar a day, doubling every day.
There you go. How about you, Aaron?
Oh man, it kind of depends on the situation you're in currently versus where you're trying to get to, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely the compounding effect is absolutely amazing.
Okay.
So
About
I'll
you,
take it.
Barquette, what do you think?
I'm sorry, my dang on dog was doing the most. So
Oh, that's all right.
can you see the
Yeah,
scenario again? Look,
yeah.
I'm trying
If you had
to.
you had two choices. If I gave you a dollar and that dollar doubled every day for 30 days, or I just wrote you a check for $1 million a day, which would you prefer?
Shoot, man.
You said you wrote a check for $1 million
Oh,
a day.
Yeah, $1 million a day, or a
Oh, I
dollar
didn't hear.
today, and the money doubles every day. So the next day it's it's $2, and it's worth $4, and so on and so
oh,
forth.
okay. And you said or $1 million a day or just today?
$1 million today.
Today?
Oh,
Yes.
so it's-
Dude, man. I'm gonna go ahead and take the millie. I'm gonna go ahead and take the cash up front. I ain't gonna hold you.
Okay.
I'm gonna take it because I know what I can do with 10,000. I know what I can do with 100 grand. So having that cash, I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
leverage $1 million into 50 million.
Sure. Well, you guys had a chance. Just take a moment and just if you got a calculator, just double it. Yeah, just take a calculator, just keep on times 2. Take the 1, and then just see what happens around day 20 or 25.
Get down. Let's go inside.
so I thought you said $1 million a day. You said $1 million just today. So
Give you $1 million just today, or you take a dollar and multiply that every day. I mean, multiply the balance every day. So the second day, let me just
for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I'm trying to
no,
figure out how to do that.
just for 30 days.
3 days. See, that changed the game. I thought it was a dollar every day, doubling the rest of my life. Hold on.
Okay.
Let me see.
Okay. Oh yeah. I'm at 64 right now. I'm doubling 64. Okay. Yeah. It's getting up. I'm at 512.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at 1,024.
Mm-hmm.
But what
What
day
days we at though? That's a good question. I was just going like this.
Yeah, just keep on hitting. Just hit times 2, and you keep on see where it ends up.
And then, ooh-wee. Okay. So right now I'm at day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, about 14, and it's 81.92.
Yeah, keep on going.
8,900. That's 8,900, right?
Oh
Yeah.
no, yeah, it goes way beyond that. Yeah, it's
Yeah, so I'm at
this
this day
particular.
15,
Okay, keep on going.
16 grand.
Hold on. I think I did this wrong.
Oh yeah. Now I wonder if I did it right or not.
Yeah.
I think it ends up being over $1 million. I think.
It's over $1 million
How much?
by day 20.
Totally wrong.
It's over $1 million by day 20.
Okay,
So
that's what.
you
Yeah.
as I said, that's extreme compounding, but you keep on going.
Get like, is it like 33 mil?
Keep on going. It's probably could be higher than that. Let's see. Let's see. I'll do it. Let's see. 1 times. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 6.
Yeah, that thing hot. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it get pretty crazy.
Y-
It get pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
it get pretty wild. Up there.
Yeah,
Okay.
you get the hundreds of millions of dollars, and so that's kind of the extreme, and so that's what you want to think about basically. And again, you get that quickly, but it's hundreds of millions of dollars there. So over 30 days. And that's starting with just $1, doubling that amount every day. Now, the thing is, it's very difficult to achieve that in real life in terms of compounding, unless you're hitting something like, unless you're doing something like Bitcoin and you have a good month or whatever. But the bottom line is that, hold on one second. Okay, yeah. The bottom line is that you want to think in terms of your dollars performing for you, and you look at real estate as just a tool for being able to help you to achieve that in a way that maybe helps you to serve people and does something fun for you. It's something that you can create a situation where you have a passive stream of income, a nice asset for your family to perform at some level over a period of time. And so, of those, now we gave you a couple of scenarios regarding the approaches to real estate. Now, I only use three scenarios. I use the sale, use the lease, and I use the option. And those are probably the three most. And there are different combinations of these, and I'll talk about just a couple of those at this point, just to kind of give you an idea of some things to think about as you're moving through this process. And certainly, the sale is pretty straightforward. You basically purchase for a certain amount. You either leverage a good portion of it, or you just pay cash for your particular asset, which is going to probably be the least fun way to do it, unless you just have more money than you need to, and you can actually handle at this point, and you prefer just to get a small return as opposed to having your money sit dormant. Leasing, you'll hear a little bit more about that. Certainly, if you buy a property, you rent it out, you can do that. But some of the more popular approaches to leasing nowadays have been situations where you see people using arbitrage, where they'll get a spread. You see a lot of that with the Airbnb tactics, where people are actually getting a property tied up, and then they'll have someone come in and pay a higher amount. That higher amount is going to be one that allows them to earn substantially more than they earn with the typical rentals. And you see, and so that a person who might earn $1,000 a month, or let's say a spread of about $400 or $500 a month, might, let's say in an Airbnb, earn 2 to 3 times that amount a month passively, using Airbnb or some other tactics to be able to generate income. And that's again without even owning the property. The one tactic that's used most frequently in this arena, the development of property, the building and selling of property, is the option. That's one. That's probably one of the favorite ones, because what it does. And let me just first of all define what the option is at this point. Option is a technique that gives you the right to buy a property at a future time for an agreed upon price between you and the seller. At this point, the important thing is that in this process, you have the right to buy it at a price in the future. They have the obligation to sell it to you for the price you agreed upon, and you can also walk away and you only lose your option deposit. Now, here's a scenario at this point: you find a property, market seems to be moving up pretty well. You decide property today is worth about, let's say, $300,000. But in your mind, you know that it's going to be worth about $500,000. Particularly some people, for example, those of you, I think that not at least Marquette, you took advantage of some of this, but there are other people who've taken advantage of techniques like the UDO. where they may got the property at a low price beforehand, and then took advantage of the upzoning and are able to get a benefit from that. Well, what happens is there's some of the larger builders, and the builder I learned from when I worked early in my career, they used to buy farmland. They buy farmland, let's say 10. They put an option down for 10 years in advance. They might put $1,000 down. Certainly, it'd be a lot more than that now. And every couple of years, they put down another 10,000 or $15,000. And for that, they would tie up about anywhere from 40 acres to several hundred acres, and then they sell portions of that land off, and then other portions of land we develop at that point. The benefit was that when we finally started developing the land, we had to use a technique or an evaluation similar to those choices that you saw in the cash flow model, where they would evaluate the rate of return versus with either us building and selling homes, or with them just selling the land flat out with nothing else invested. And that was a competition because in our case, we had a separate land division, we had a mortgage division, and we also had a building division. I worked at the building division. I had done some work with the land division as well, but we worked in concert or in competition to meet the needs of corporate. And so those scenarios would force you to make decisions so that good times or bad, you were prepared to move forward and do what needed to be done to get the best possible result for the company. Now, there's at least one big builder out here that's known for partnering with developers, and people like to partner with them because what happens is they may agree on purchasing a property that may consist of hundreds of acres. And so what will happen is they'll allow the developer to perform the work, produce the lots, and they will pay a premium. So that, let's say if the lots were worth $60,000, they may decide that they may agree to pay $80,000 per lot with their option at this point. So they've given maybe a couple $100,000 in option deposits. Now, what happens is, if the market turns, they can say, we're going to just walk away. You keep the other 50 or 100 lots at this point. We're going to just walk away. We don't want to do anymore for whatever reason. Now, again, I'd have the obligation to sell it to them for that price. They have the right to purchase for that price, or they can walk away. If they walk away, they leave the deposit on the table. Okay. Now, that's something that, as time goes on, may be considered. Today, at this point, I think a lot of people, with Charlotte being a pretty hot market, most people want to get their money now. They're not looking for any type of promise in the future. But that's something that may be considered as a possibility at some point in time. Any questions about those techniques so far?
Yeah, the option.
Go ahead.
Can you just expound on that a little bit more? So, like, the option would kind of be compared to like a wholesale, kind of now.
Option,
not the
option,
of it.
Yeah, the option, sort of like a wholesale. The difference is that a wholesale is basically wholesale is more of arbitrage. You basically are you're controlling the property, and then you're selling the property for a higher price. The option is saying that I'm going to do this instead of let's say me flipping the property right away. I want 1 year. I want 5 years. I'm going to hold this property. I'm going to give you a deposit right now, an option deposit, $50,000. Now, it's probably better used for people who may not be as hard pressed for money right now. They may have a desire for some money, because once they get the deposit, that deposit is their money. Period.
Yeah, they can sit on it.
So they can sit on it. They can use it. They can spend it or whatever, and it may determine they'll allow you to renew that option if you want to at some point. But or just prior to as that expiration comes up. But for the that initial period, you're able to control that property, and you can sell the property. That's the thing. You can sell the property without owning it at this point. Somebody else may put the option deposit up for you, but you have control of that property until that option expires. So yes, arbitrage can be used in arbitrage. I mean, in wholesaling. Um, that's the net results about the same at this point, or it can be used to allow you to be able to get that property so that, let's say let's say the property's worth $500,000 a day. You know some things are going to occur that within a year it's going to be worth $1 million. So you got $50,000 tied up, or $5,000 tied up, or whatever at this point. And ultimately, what happens is when the value of that property goes up, you benefit by leveraging the small amount of money relative to the price or value that you've invested.
Got you. So, like for instance, if I put down the option, say, hey, there's this 10-acre site, me and the seller talk. I said, hey, I'll get on the contract for $100,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that next year it's about to be a whole Harris Teeter, like all this stuff coming by.
Exactly.
And then next year we do evaluation gets evaluated for $900,000. So pretty much I hold that for let's say 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've only got $100,000 that on contract, and I put maybe $5,000 down.
Yes.
But then I sell it to maybe a builder for $1 million. But so now I just pay their $100,000 off, and I get $900,000.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea at this point. Except that the difference is that if the option, they'll probably want the entire deposit, unless you have somebody else put the difference up. The option deposit is going to be the amount that you agree upon as that amount. So so you may pay $5,000, and maybe your partner pays $95,000.
I got you.
Okay.
So with the price you agree on, you put that whole price down.
That's correct.
Got you. Okay.
Okay. Now, having said that, and I think you guys are doing some of this anyway at this point, take a look at that same scenario at this point in terms of the amount of money you're using to execute your purchases. The most important thing you're looking at, again, is going to be leverage. And so in that same scenario, a person wants to, let's say, buy a property that's worth $1 million at this point. And the question becomes, do you pay the $1 million? Do you pay, let's say, $100,000 of finance, 90% of it? Or do you pay the $5,000 or $10,000 and finance 99% of it? So those are going to be choices that you have at this point in terms of the amount of leverage you're going to be using in your case. And the most important thing to keep in mind would be that if you did the 100,000, let's say you bought it for $500,000 and it went up to $1 million, you got to obviously have 100% return. But if you bought it for $500,000, but you only put down $50,000, then what happens is you've actually got a return substantially higher than that. So instead of having 100% return, you've got 200%. No. Yeah, you multiply, divided by 20. Yeah, 2,000%. Is that right, Aaron? Let's see.
What was the figure?
$5,000. I mean, sorry, 50,000. Say $500,000, and the value goes up to $1 million. You've sold it for $1 million at this point, so you doubled your investment.
Yep.
Okay. And so, in the case of $50,000, you've done $50,000 down, $500,000. The rest of it is loaned to you. So your increase is going to be 20%. I mean, 20 times your investment. And that's the type of leverage you're trying to get in your properties at this point. You're putting out as only as much as you need to, and getting as much of a benefit on the other side there in terms of your return. Is that making sense so far?
Yeah, no, it definitely makes perfect sense to me, Walter, because that's exactly what I did to get Gray's Landing, the 2.65. Like my grandma, she owed back taxes on her land. She came to me with a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I had some opportunity, and I knew I could solve that problem from the money that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And she was willing to transfer a property into my name that I didn't know at the time was worth, you know, almost 200 grand, 200 grand plus.
Right.
It was just land. And
Exactly.
then I sold two lots for 195,000, acquired the 2.65 acres for 175,000
Mm-hmm.
with a one exchange to minimize my taxes. And now I just got the BPO back at 1.8 million from a
There,
commercial broker.
there you
And
go.
it's just like I'm in this project really for $3,500 out of pocket.
And that's what you're talking about.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's highway robbery right there,
That
boy. That's
that's what
crazy.
that's what you're talking about. And so
Yeah.
you look at those types of scenarios at this point, and by carefully playing those, either you're investing that small amount, relatively small amount, or you're investing that small amount and you have other people come in and leverage and to participate so that you get a similar return with, again, very little money out of your pocket. I think the biggest thing that you want to make sure that during this process that you are able to hold on to as much of your cash as possible. Use as much little as of your own personal cash during this process as you can.
Mm.
You want to maintain a good cash position, but ultimately build up other avenues, either lines of credit or partners or whatever at this point, to try to minimize whatever you're doing out there without getting too carried away, without over leveraging and getting yourself in a situation where you're getting too excited about certain properties and getting yourself over leveraged there and finding out that things aren't going quite as well as you hoped. The
Yeah, I want to ask you about over leverage, Walter. So like I just got the BPO back at 1.8, and now I'm in a situation to where I can go to lenders and be like, hey, I have this BPO on my property for 1.8 million. No, I got a lien on a property from me raising capital. Like, let me refinance to get me enough for permits to give me enough to start construction. Like, how much money would I like? Can I realistically aim for when refinancing with that BPO without being over leveraged, especially being able to get more funds? But technically, we're not at construction yet.
the answer to that question, Markel, is going to come down to what your return is going to be on that property based on your planned use, whether you're going to be leasing it or whether you're going to be selling it. And so what will happen is, as you work your numbers there, you finish your pro formas, you evaluate how those are producing the income that you anticipate. Would you do better to those are choices? Do you sell it? Do you lease it? Do you do a combination of the two? And so what happens there is that you do as much as you need to do to achieve the return you're looking for at this point over time. And that's going to be a question that you'll want to evaluate by producing a couple of different scenarios. The nice thing is that um, you're in a nice strong market, nice location. Um, I don't think this market, the Charlotte market, has been one that, even in tough times, has never really had any real major crashes. It's slowed down, but I've been part of or witness other markets that you'll see a very wide swing there. California is one of those areas that you see these strong ups, and then you see some severe downs. I'm not talking about just like a little bit of money. I'm talking about some really major losses. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and other areas that had never experienced that before, like Phoenix, some other areas, a few other areas experienced some similar situations where they were down for a while, but they rebounded and done pretty well. Charlotte, on the other hand, I've only ever seen it just kind of creep to a halt, but never taken any major dips. That doesn't mean it can't happen. It's just that they tend to be a little bit more conservative in terms of the actual approach to lending and operating here in real estate, in the real estate arena. So yeah, Mark, yeah, that would be the thing. I'd say look at a couple of different scenarios, define your objective as far as the return on your money, and that will be your guide there as to whether you're as to what amount of leverage you want to utilize.
Okay, and I mean, when you say determine a return, is that from the standpoint of, like, let's say if I did a lease to own, am I evaluating the return from like 10 to 15 years from now once I actually sell the properties, or am I looking at it from a cash flow perspective in conjunction with selling on the back end after a 10 to 15 year period?
Well, the answer to that question is always going to be based on. Now think about the cash flow models. Those are the same question. Those answer that same question. What is your goal at this point? Is your goal 10% return on your capital, 25%? Define what your goal is, and then use that as your guide at this point. I think that will probably be the right answer for you is to determine what that level is, and then you can determine whether you sell it now, or you decide you're going to establish a certain level of return today, and maybe if you decide you're going to sell the properties off later, maybe you decide you want a higher amount, and then you're preparing to do some other things, or you may determine that um, your ultimate goal is going to be a certain um, benchmark, 10, 15, 25%. Those are questions you want to answer at this point. You see, there's no right or wrong answers other than if you're taking a negative or something less than your benchmark is. That's the only answer that you're looking for that would be one that you wouldn't want to deal with. So define what your goal is, and then what happens is the models we discussed that will define where you're wanting to be, where you need to be. I used for the a lot of the pro formas. I try to suggest somewhere around 10% or so is the objective that you want to achieve minimum on the properties you're pursuing. Industry average for, let's say, for sale properties by the big builders is typically around 7%. That's been pretty consistent. Uh, you want to operate a little bit more aggressively than that because you have a little bit more risk. They can walk away. They can write off money and regain it, or they'll consolidate. That's why you'll see a lot of builders that you may have seen 10, 15 years ago, including the builder I work for, which was the largest builder in the country at one point, has been absorbed. And you'll see the other builders who lasted, like D.R. Horton's, Ryan, uh, Lennar. They've actually merged with a lot of other companies. They've maintained that name and proceeded forward. But Markel, the answer to your question would be just define what your objective is going to be now and long term, and start with that. And that will be your number. But that will be the right number for you.
Okay.
Okay. Now, keep in mind when I talk about this, remember we talked. One of the first things we talked about was that demographic research there, or let's say overview. Uh, if you look at that, the very last page, there's a graph there, and you saw three demographic segments. I guess they were the Gen Y, Z, and the baby boomers that were all around 7 million or so, more or less per segment. And then all of a sudden, the generations just beyond that dropped off substantially. Now, that will give you an indication as you're moving forward in determining what markets you want to serve, and you prepare based on those scenarios on those markets. What your level of return is going to be, what type of structure you want to establish for your operation, or you may determine that you want to be sort of a serial entrepreneur as it relates to real estate and just dabble in each one of them, of those segments. They're all different, and one might think that selling a house or renting a property is the same everywhere. Other than maybe some are low end, some are going to be higher end, but there are actually some various distinctions. And I'll just kind of give you a couple of scenarios real quickly so that you'll kind of get a feel for it. What I'm saying. When you're looking at the primary home buying segment. Typically, and that's going to be your typical families that are young, either young or middle aged. 25 to 54 is typically the age you'll see that's defined in their um, marketing at this point. And then from that point, you start moving into the more mature market, and then you move into the retirement market. Having said that, the needs of the people who are buying a home, first home, is going to be such that they've got to have some sort of comfort and security, something to get them started. And in those segments, you may have those who are looking to, who may have uh, jobs that are just steady, maybe blue collar. They're just going to be in an area. They're going to stay there forever at this point. Maybe even your typical workforce, your teachers, firemen, uh, police officers. They're going to buy. They're going to stay. They're not going to be moving around a lot. Then you may have the executives at this point who will move into a house. They're going to be looking for maybe something a little bit more um, that has a little bit more of an ability to appreciate, because they in fact may get transferred, or they may be decide that they want to move to something a little bit more prestigious. So they may want to buy for investment purposes. So therefore, their home may be one that they buy and in several years from now may appreciate. Now the workforce houses, typically that you're not going to see as much appreciation for them, because they're not buying for them. They're buying it to live. That is their legacy. They may pass it on to their children, or they may stay there forever. But generally speaking, they don't appreciate, not because they don't appreciate it not as much, not necessarily because they don't want to appreciate, or that the homes are worth any less. It's just that most of your areas that appreciate a little bit more rapidly are areas where you see a lot of activity. They're selling now. They're selling another 2 or 3 years. They sell again. And you go to areas that are that have the same type homes, and you wonder, well, why is that not as valuable as the other houses? It's only because people haven't sold their homes. There's no activity. Their comparables are going to reflect a much more modest level of living. Now, those two segments of buyers require some care. If something goes wrong with the house, you come in and you take care of the um, work around the house, serve them, but you get in, you get out, and move on about your business. They don't want to see you a whole lot. They want to just be able to have some quiet time with their family. Now, when you get into, let's say, the extreme retirement area segment, the area of those who are above, let's say, 65, 70 years old or older, they tend to pay a lot more for their home. They get a nice home. They have fewer rooms, but the rooms are larger, and they pay a lot. They pay a premium for those because they're there. They want just quiet time. They don't want to be bothered with the kids, other than maybe they have them come in for a couple hours or a couple of days, and then they can go back on about their business back home to the kids. Um, they want peace and quiet, and with them, on the other hand, they tend to be, while they're paying that premium, and they may have amenities, they'll probably live live in scenarios where you'll see the homes that are maybe condominiums. They may be fully maintained, and by condominium, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a single family home. Condominiums can be. I mean, it does not mean it's an apartment or townhome. Condominiums can be single family homes. You see a lot of single family condominium homes in retirement communities, where the entire exterior of the building and the entire landscape and all the amenities are fully maintained. And if things are repaired over the years or replaced over the years, that is part of the association. That's part of what their fees pay. They pay for those roads to be updated. They pay for that exterior to be kept fresh. I'm talking about the homes themselves as well. But everything on the interior is what defines a condominium. That's what you own. Everything else is owned by the common elements and common areas are owned by the group as a whole. So those are the things you'll want to watch out for. And then in terms of determining whether you want to work with one segment or another is Yeah, there's no wrong segment. It's the question of what your preferences are going to be. Who do you want to serve at this point? And also, do you want to serve, let's say, um, the affluent? Do you want to serve those who are working to get started? What level of housing do you want to provide? Which audience do you want to target? Or how do you want to be involved with that particular segment? Those are questions, again, that depends on your particular preference in terms of um, who you're going to serve and how you want to serve at that point, short term and long term. And those may evolve over time. But I mention those because each of those requires a little different organization. Oh, the last thing about the retirees is that they may require a lot more in terms of time in the house or time serving, because the retirees are gonna, they may tend to be a little more lonely. They may want a little more conversation than you just popping in and fixing a doorknob and walking out. You may have to spend a little time and talk a little bit there. So you have to kind of adjust for that, adjust for your time there, adjust for certain different other personality, personal differences in terms of those markets. Whether you want to rent or sell, that's going to be a question again. You may want to do a combination of those. Again, you guys are moving on, doing some nice things at this point, so you got choices. And if there's any market to be in right now, this is a good one to be in, to be able to explore those types of possibilities. Any questions so
Question.
far?
Yeah. This is kind of like about the horizontal.
Yes.
So, how did you guys? What was your process like when you guys got some land under contract and you had to evaluate what the horizontal cost was going to be? What was like your process like on your timetable of like, did y'all have an in-house civil? Did you kind of structure out the deal to where did you have a system to where you knew your horizontal costs already, like curb and gutter and all that?
Yeah. Well, what
Or
happens is the curb and gutter, every aspect of that, I always have people I call, because
oh, you did? Okay.
yeah. And so what happens is a horizontal. I call other developers. I call developers of different aspects of it. Utility. I'll call utility guys, grading guys, just to kind of get a feel for where things are, just so that when I do finally when I do finally perform the estimates or start taking contracts, I have some idea what the market's doing. And the reason I say that is because um, in any market, and Charlotte's one of those markets at this point is pretty high demand. Your cost can change pretty dramatically in a matter of a couple of years, and you may not even realize that. And so, one of the things I want to share with you guys over the next few weeks are going to be examples of how I got caught in part of that. I'll just share an example with you, and you'll get a chance to see the actual final result, and some of the people that work with me at this point. When I stopped doing things for a couple of years. In 2008, I took a beating. I said, "Oh, let me just back off for a bit, and just kind of coast." And then when I went in and started working with the client who wanted to um, basically redo their home, and literally we tore the first floor off. Tore the first floor off. Tore the second floor off. Took off part of the first floor, and then we reconstructed the house. Um, and it's in the Cotswold area. And at the time that the work started, the house was worth about 250, maybe 300. It was pushing $300,000 at that point. Now we're talking. This is only 8 years ago. Okay, so when we got into the costing, we say, this will cost about $150,000 to build. That was basically on a cost for several years before that. And then finally, as I continued talking with folks, I realized that this is not going to happen. So when we finally broke the news, it's going to be more. It's going to be close to $200,000 to do. It was a pretty dramatic change, but it was certainly within range at that point of what was going on out there. It was still a better cost than the others in that area. And so that was the cost to build it. That was the cost to do the work. I think it was about $210,000 at that time. Today it would be about $300,000 because part of what happened is that was $200,000 with my getting my best cost and me giving a pretty good discount just because I had a pretty good relationship with the owner. Now, having said that, we had the complete second floor. We did the garage. We did some of the landscaping, um, and still there's some things we didn't do because that was because they had a death in the family. We had to spend money to take care of that. So we got to a nice breaking point, and the house still turned out nicely. But ultimately, the house today is worth about 1.2. That's over 8 years. That's not a good part of it. By the time when we finished it, the house had doubled in value. The day we finished, and yeah, they had $400,000 worth of work and worth of property at that point. But the property at that point was worth $800,000 the day it was finished. Today, I say it's worth 1.2. That's what I've seen recently in terms of the comps. But I know the comps right now have been shooting for a lot higher than that for homes that are similar in that neighborhood. When I say similar, I'm speaking about across the street or just a half a block away. That's just the kind of activities going on, and the reason why it's some homes are going for a lot less is because they're seniors. They figure, I only need $300,000 or $400,000. I'll just sell it. Bam! They get their money and walk forward and walk away. Person comes in, literally, this is real time, buys a house for that price, turn around, they fix it, they sell it for 1.2 to $2 million. So that's the type. Now, I know each of you guys are seeing that same type of activity here in Charlotte and around that area. But the one thing I would say is during that process, be very careful. Make sure that you monitor the activity specifically in that location because it's kind of easy to see properties that are maybe a little bit further away that have similar features that you're looking at that um, may not apply to where you are today. And having said that, doesn't mean that your property won't do well. You may just have to factor a lot more in for not closing costs, carrying cost. So instead of, let's say, that 1 year, that if it doesn't if it doesn't work out, maybe you're looking for a longer period, or you have to look at some other ways of being able to generate cash flow. So again, that's one of those questions you want to be careful of in terms of overspending or over leveraging that process. Okay. Now, I said to you also in that package, I'm going to be sending other things to you as well. I'm trying to give you enough tools you have to work with. One of those was a list of costs for your construction, for your horizontal, for your vertical, as well as I gave you a list of things for your general conditions. The reason I gave that list to you is because that is most other things you can pretty well figure out. You can kind of get an idea what your cost is going to be for your commissions, your pre-development. But the area where you have the most control that you want to watch at this point until you get your rhythm there is to make sure that you have them to spell out every line item. Don't just give you a blanket cost per square foot. This is what it's going to do. You want to know at this point. You want to clearly define what's going into the house and the purpose for doing that exercise. And I'd like to see all you guys bring those together next week because I'll have some other things for you next week to talk about. Where you're comparing the various builders at this point, you're getting an idea of what they include in their homes. The idea at this point is that you want to know what the standard is going to be, and you want to know what that $140 or $150 or $170 per square foot construction cost includes. If it doesn't meet those standards or those features, then you know you got a little bit of work to do. If it does, and you've routinely done that, then you have it at that point you can pretty well select that price per square foot. But I can only do it because I talk to people pretty regularly at this point to kind of get an idea what types of things are going to be changing. But even having said that, every year there's some sort of upgrade, like electrical contractors. Their work has substantially gone up because of technology and the types of things that are going to be occurring over the years to come at this point. So you be aware of that. The codes are changing for them as well. So there's certain things that may occur that affect your sprinkler costs and your HVAC costs. But you look for ways of being able to offset that. Now, and I'm mentioning those things. You don't necessarily need to know them in detail, but just knowing those things that you're preparing to better understand the numbers that you're going to be inputting into your pro formas and your forecast. You want to at least have an idea of which areas you want to watch out for that you can probably gain a little bit of money or maybe a lot of money, or enhance your value just by knowing what those are going to be at this point. So don't take anybody's word for it right away at this point until you know what you got. In terms of the on that not gross margin, the unit cost analysis format that I shared with you, those top areas that where you talk, it's going to show your land and your building cost, and then your what's the other one, the general conditions. You watch those. That gives you a pretty. That general conditions are set up just so you'll have an idea of what your cost is going to be for your operating. Whether it's going to be your construction trailer, your porta johns, your subdivision maintenance. Where you have your guys coming sweeping streets, and you're trying to provide erosion control, or any other thing that's going to be routinely done that you can't necessarily specifically assign to a specific house, but it's going to be general. That gives you an idea at that point what your cost is going to be. Those you can probably figure out pretty quickly, but you want to make sure you have all those in order right off the bat, so that you know how your community is going to look. You've probably be driven around neighborhoods where you see, and they all have retention areas, but you notice that some look a little bit worse. Some look pretty nice. Some look kind of tacky. Lack of a better word, they just met the requirement. So you see weeds, sort of weeds growing around them, where you see these muddy muddy areas at this point that just aren't very well maintained because they're donated to the city or whatever at this point. Just try to think about how you want to prepare those, because ultimately what happens is you can't, although you might have a fence and people can't see while they're in, people do drive around that neighborhood and they get an impression of how your community is going to be looking at this point. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If not, you'll see some examples as we go along. The other thing in your package you're going to see is going to be the amortization schedules. The amortization schedule I use there, that's one of my favorite ones. I pulled it right off Excel. I just pulled the Excel worksheet up and chose that one, and that's the one that operates and functions pretty well. It allows you to be able to set up your payments for any year, any number of years. You can do prepayments. It's a very user-friendly format at this point that you can use to determine who's qualifying for your properties, and then you can kind of define whether you need any types of enhancements. And for those enhancements, we'll talk more over time at this point regarding any of your affordable, which you're going to see a lot of affordable housing initiatives come up over the next, well, depending on how things go the next few weeks, we'll see more or less different levels of down payment assistance or other programs that might be used to help to increase the affordability of homes. Now, those we'll discuss as well over time, and let you know that beyond the down payment assistance, there are a number of other ways of being able to enhance your properties and long term, and as well as enhance the affordability short term. That are either locally provided, statewide or even national. And some are very competitive. Some are some are just sitting there in many cases that are not being tapped into. And I'll share some examples that might be beneficial to you guys that I'm exploring in other areas. Some other people are doing the same thing at this point, in just these pockets where people have property that no one even knows about, sitting right there in plain view. They don't know the programs are there, or they underestimate the value of the ability to be able to deliver goods for people that are looking for nice properties. Any questions so far?
All right, question. Well, yeah, I guess it's the question. The pro forma. Do you think one night you can go over just a full pro forma of just a development?
Sure.
Kind of like line by line, just to break it down.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, I think that would help.
Matter of fact, what'll happen is we'll be doing that in the last 2 weeks. Not last 2 weeks. It won't be this week. It'll probably be during as we approach the technology in the enterprise section. By the time we get to that point, you'll have an idea where each item goes, and we'll cover a couple of scenarios in full. And a lot of those will make sense because I would have talked to you guys about some things you're doing anyway. A lot of those things are going to make sense by that time, in terms of where they go, how they're placed, whether you place them or you have someone else place them. At this point, you just want to be familiar with how those are structured there. But certainly, questions you have, specific questions in the meantime, before that point, I can answer those as we go along. That won't be a problem. But otherwise, I want you guys to understand, at the very least, when we've completed at least this first round of sessions, where that process stands and what you're dealing with at this point. But ultimately, this all leads back to your desired level of return. And that's going to vary from person to person at this point. But generally speaking, you don't want to go below a certain point, because if below a certain point, you can just put your money in the bank and just earn the couple percent that's there and not touch it. But I think you're looking for something a little bit better than that, or a lot better than that, with some risk in the process.
For sure.
Hey Walter, I had a quick question too.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say like on projects where you don't put any of your money into it, right? So I guess your return is infinite.
That's right.
But what would you say? Would you say that 10% rule should still kind of apply? In terms of like margins and things that you're looking for on the deals?
Yeah, the margins will be different than your return at this point. And the margin in this case, when I look at the margin, I'm talking about your return on sales, not the return on investment. So your return on sales. So for example, your return on sales. Let's say if you're selling a property for $500,000, or let's say $400,000. At the very bottom line, you want to earn somewhere between $40,000 or so. It's $40,000 to $50,000. That probably is decent return for your effort and for the level of risk. But your optimal return on investment is infinite. You put nothing in, you get, and therefore you have nothing at risk. Basically, it's just cash there for you. So, yeah, infinite return is certainly your objective, as close to that as possible is your objective on your return on investment. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's what you're gonna see in that pro forma and on the your unit profit analysis. Unit profit analysis kind of lays out each of the categories in a different arrangement than the pro forma does. Same information, I just kind of flip them around so I can see it a certain way and understand where the focus needs to be. And one of the things we're going to find that during next week and the following week, we're going to talk a little bit more about the one area that is not quite as obvious. You guys get it, but it's not discussed as much, and that's the area of your sales and marketing. And the marketing in particular at this point today as opposed to being an expense, can actually be used as the way you guys are approaching it can be used as your profit center. Okay, and that's basically by doing that, um, you're basically having your story told, or you're getting other people to tell your story, and you're not having to spend that money at this point. That's money in your pocket at this point, just by getting the word out there and letting them and you're leveraging that aspect. So you're gonna be leveraging your message, you're gonna be leveraging your money, and you're gonna be leveraging the people at this point out there who are providing that labor for you at this point, and also helping them leverage. And if you're doing it properly, you'll help them not only you may get better prices, but you can find ways to help them to earn money in that process, much more money than they could have gotten from anyone else, even though you're paying them less, just by showing them how to get more benefit from their time at this point. And those are the types of things we'll talk about as we get into the design and technology uh, phases of this discussion process.
Okay.
And Walter, my last question on pro forma too. When you go over that, will you be sharing your pro forma so that we can kind of use that wash and rinse and repeat with
Absolutely.
your format?
Yeah, absolutely. By that time, I'll know exactly how to share a screen. I'm just, I just learned how to. I'm recording this one. This is my first recording, so it'll come out, kind of crazy at this point. But by within the next week or two, I'll know how. I'll be in pretty good shape of being able to share the screen and show you how to do this line by line. That won't be a problem.
Sounds good.
Sure. And then,
I think when you meant,
pardon me.
I think when you meant share, I mean like if you have like a template to where if we can use that pro forma on another development, like an Excel sheet.
Yeah, I've got an Excel sheet. What happens is I'll have a template that you can probably start with. But what happens with mine is I actually do a lot of. I've actually made a lot of changes. I make changes pretty frequently in it, but I can give you at least the actual flow. You'll have an understanding, at least the methodology for it. But that's why I will usually ask when I'm working with people. I'll ask if they have if their particular financial institution, their partner has a specific pro forma that they prefer to use, and if they do, I can use that. But I will share with you certainly the sales pro forma is one I do adjust the most. The rental pro forma, that hasn't changed very much, other than maybe getting an idea what certain cost line items might be. But answer your question. I'll be able to at least share the methodology, the flow at this point of that process. And when you look at it, the things we're talking about now, you'll understand why the numbers are plugged in a certain way. Like, why is that $150 a square foot? What does it consist of? What is that? Why does that lot cost $40,000 for improvement, or $50,000? Why? Just because of certain aspects of the work that's being done. I can show you how to approach. When you understand that, you'll know at least the questions to ask and or the numbers to place. Um, but as I said, for that one, I don't have I have a format, and I can share with you the format. But as I said, a lot of that stuff I just kind of adjust as I go along, just because I know that certain things have changed. The one thing that, as I said, that hasn't changed. Oh, the other aspect of it also that I don't include it, I just do it later. I have to do it on the cuff. Is when you start dealing with things like subsidies. You deal with tax credits. You'll be dealing with any types of down payment assistance. I do those separately just to kind of get an idea of what the person actually qualifies for. So, for example, you have that amortization sheet, worksheet. Oh, actually, it's not an amortization schedule, or that you can literally plug the numbers in. It tells you what you need to tell. It needs to tell you. But ultimately, what happens is I got to determine what a person qualifies for if they're buying or leasing. And I'll give you one number real quick that'll be helpful for you guys if you're trying to figure out monthly payments. Since the rates now right around 6, if I just use 6%, 30 years, 6%, the factor is 6, 5.99 or 6. Let's use that. So, for example, if the person's buying a home that costs $500,000, 6 times 500 is going to be $3,000 a month for their principal and interest. Then you fix it, the taxes and insurance you can plug on top of that. So just use the number 6. That's probably going to get you pretty close to monthly payment plus taxes and insurance on top of that. If you add that, and then any type of mortgage insurance premium, you can add. You can stay six plus maybe another 5%. Might get you where you need to be as far as a monthly payment for qualifying folks. And the reason why I said it is that you need to know when you're targeting your market, you're building these homes, you want to know exactly who's going to be buying them. Now, to give you an idea, when I first got here, I was when I just left one builder at this point, started doing some things on my own. I was flipping properties, and so what I did was, you like this one, I had some flyers made, and the flyers. This is how the flyers read: if you each earn $5 an hour, that's like I had a couple drawn in there. You can own your own home.
If you each,
Yeah. So that meant $10 an hour for the couple, but you can't, an individual nobody. I mean, people earn more than $10 an hour minimum now, and they can't get anything. But during that time, being able to get a house for, let's say, $20,000 and flip it for $40,000 was not a real big problem then. You could do that pretty routinely, and so that gives you an idea. And I got here in 87 is when I arrived in Charlotte. So it gives you an idea how much things have changed. Now today, that same house is probably going to be about $300,000 or $400,000. It's about $350,000. So as opposed to the $20,000 I paid for it then. So,
That's wild.
That's insane, man.
yeah. So, but
Stupid.
But having said that, you want to probably be able to think down to the level of whether they're earning money. If you advertise that somebody earns a certain monthly income, if it's hourly income, if it's whatever it happens to be, whatever that hot button is, you kind of play to that. Then it was how much money I earned. Today it may be the features at this point because you start talking about hourly figures or dollar or monthly figures or any types of annual figures. It's a little different now to get people qualified, especially with the different categories as far as affordability.
No, it's just so crazy how
Different time.
property was being sold and acquired at 20 grand in the 1980s here in Charlotte, and it's like why wouldn't we become adults? Everything is like overly expensive and inflation is insane. Like
Yeah,
don't make no sense.
Crazy.
Just think about this. Those same areas. Now you can take the areas that are right there along Beatty's Ford, the West Side. Look, we built there off of Ashley Road and Allegheny, near that area, right behind Harding University High School. We did it because nobody, just like today, nobody was building any affordable housing. So it wasn't because we, could have done something else. It's just because nobody was doing it. We got tired of, sitting around watching people just kind of get blown off and watch their rents go up. Certainly rents were a lot less then than they are now, but we took a dive in that market and did quite well. And, served people. We did 75 homes there. People were happy. And the objective there was to try and find ways to help bridge that gap. And that's something that's going to be continuously going on at this point in terms of even what you're doing now. So even if you have, even with the types of product you're serving now, if you can consider some additional advantage, like for example, then we offered the guaranteed energy usage package where we got paid to enhance the house, and we split money with a nonprofit partner. The buyer got a guaranteed level of electrical use, power use, and anything that exceeded that, it was already reduced by about a third of the normal level. If it exceeded that, they got paid. They received a check for the difference for that first 2 years. Okay. Now today you have situations where you're looking at these power walls. You've got certain other electrical considerations. Your Wi-Fi connections. There was no Wi-Fi then. There was no. We didn't have computers then. We certainly have these cell phones back then during that period. But there are a lot of other things you can look at nowadays that might benefit people long term. That may relate to either energy, healthcare. Those types of scenarios that may be, or even workforce um, enhancements. So think about those in terms of your design, and some of those types of things we'll talk about next week.
Hey, Walter, I had a question too on that affordable housing, like you brought up.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, again, we build houses out Concord, Kannapolis, stuff like that, and I'm thinking, we sell them for, like, usually 280, 290.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, okay, that's kind of affordable, but, like, how do you, like, I guess, really break into being able to build affordable housing and get the subsidies and stuff like that, versus, kind of going out now and using your own capital and trying to sell it at an affordable rate, I guess.
Well, here's the thing. What people don't realize is affordable is not as cheap as you think. So affordable, you're in the affordable range right there. Now, the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency and FHA define affordable as today, or at least as of fairly recently, $486,000 and below.
Oh my.
Okay. Now, having said that Charlotte, you talk about something like House Charlotte or some others, they're in like the mid threes, so there's a little bit of a gap there, and then you have some other scenarios of that are going to be somewhere between those. Just knowing where those are is your beginner, it makes a difference. And if you know that, then what happens is you find ways to blend your down payment assistance with the incentives they're offering the buyers or renters, the determination of what you're going to do in terms of achieving an affordable level of rental or sales, whether you use some of the HUD financing, some of the tax credits, which are pretty competitive, whether you use the down payment assistance or construction assistance or other programs. If you know what those programs are and then you know who the partners are, then you can literally tweak those. And so, for example, what we did for the affordable properties we were doing, now our affordable properties, people would always say they're not affordable. They're not happy. Well, we're not trying to compete with Habitat. That's not the objective at this point. The objective was to provide a situation where they had a house that was going to meet their current needs and future needs at a price they could attain. And so what we did was we found ways to get money to achieve the down payment assistance, and so and then additionally that was in a couple of different layers there. The first layer was one that was like House Charlotte today, and something you'll see with Dream Key Partners. I think is administrator of House Charlotte, and the administrator for, let's say, Kannapolis or Gastonia is going to probably be different, but they'll all have some of the community development block grant money that's allocated towards some sort of down payment assistance. Now, take the money that, let's say, Kamala Harris is projecting to offer for down payment assistance as an example, $25,000. Okay. Again, keep in mind, I use that factor at this point 6 because the rates are right now roughly around 6%, maybe a little more or less. If you use that alone, that's $150,000. $150 per month savings in terms of the monthly payments. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Having said that, at some point, that money is forgiven. So the down payment assistance, in this case, we had at two different levels. One was the House Charlotte portion, which might be similar to the 25,000, was $10,000 or $15,000 in some communities then. And what happened is at that point, if they stayed in the house for 5 years, every year after the fifth year, 20% of that was forgiven. Now it may be that you have to stay in the house 10 years before you start getting any type of forgiveness, or some may, depending on your jurisdiction, they'll tell you whether it's 5 years, 10 years, whatever. And then for the, certain people like police officers, the firemen, and some other community workers, they may get some sort of additional benefit in terms of the reduction. So that portion is forgiven if they stay in the house for a certain period of time. The other portion, we got we doubled that. We got more than that on the back end, to where the loan was reduced by a certain amount. Let's say another $10,000 or $15,000, and that money was sitting there as a silent second mortgage and didn't have to be paid back until the first mortgage was paid off.
Wow.
Okay.
So that after 30 years.
After 30 years, they pay on they start paying on the rest of it at this point. And if they needed to refinance before then, they could refinance, and it would still sit there silently. So people did that.
Wow.
Now there was other money beyond that you could pursue at another level that you could have done the same thing with, or could have used to either offset some other costs, or maybe even some of your construction costs, if you knew how to ask and where to ask. Those monies are out there. So to answer your question regarding affordability, all we need to know is I'll talk with you probably over the next couple of days. We'll get a few more details. I'll give you some ideas of questions you can ask, and if you want, I can help you out as well in that process to pursue some of those funds. But they're out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll work. I'm like, where do I start?
Yeah. That's the thing at the point. And what happens is the benefit is that it's there, but a lot of people aren't looking at it. The big guys sometimes don't even care about it. They don't want to spend time looking for that. But here's the thing: it's important to know how the big guys think, because while they may not be thinking about it now, they may switch. They may convert later, and if it gets competitive, the market gets tough, they'll do things. They'll give things that they wouldn't ordinarily give. Furniture, well, let me just say, I'll just share an example with you at this point that may be kind of extreme at this point. But when I was first, when I lived in the Phoenix area, it's the mid '80s. That was a time when rates, or early mid '80s. That was a time when the rates hit the highest ever. Now we complain about interest rates now because they've gone up over the last couple of years from like 2-3% up to like 6% or so. Well, just imagine operating and having to operate every day in multiple communities where the rates on a good day was 17.5% to 18.25%. These are real rates. 17.5%, 18.25% were the rates, man. we would still deal with that, and that caused, and so that was up at that point from, let's say, 12. That was during the really well, we didn't quite hit recession levels at that point, but it was pretty tough. And then the rates started going down, and then we got down well into the single digits, which I never thought would happen at this point. So, you never get too worked about that type of thing. Don't ever worry about the rates. Just worry about keep your eye on the prices, because they'll keep going.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
All right. Other questions?
For me, I don't have any other questions right now. Nah, really. I mean, just looking for that next refi, and just making sure that when I do this next refi, I'm not over leveraged when it's time for me to get my construction loan. So just trying to figure out how much I need to raise for this next round without being over leveraged to go into the construction loan, as the construction loan will buy out, the current lien on the property.
Sure, exactly. They take the current lien on the property, and you may pull some money out and do some other things. So that's going to be the thing you'll define in terms of whether it's how well it's leveraged. Hold on a second. Okay, there we go. But yeah, just knowing those numbers over this next few weeks, or at least knowing how to approach those will be helpful. And as I said, we'll look at some ways of being able to help you guys to um, achieve more favorable rates. On top of that, we got one of the things I was saying is that starting next week, we'll start talking about some ways to help you guys prepare for a big first of the year. At this point, in terms, I'll share at that time some initiatives I'm working on at this point that may be helpful to you guys as well. Now, I think you've seen part of it in terms of the um, type of presentation I helped to structure. That little video presentation I did for your project, Martin.
Yeah.
There'll be more things that can be utilized at this point to help each of you guys leverage what you're doing at this point. Some it's a little bit early for me to say yet at this point, but I'm going to be tackling um, different aspects from remodels to new builds to full communities at this point, and then we'll start. In addition to taking the tours, we'll look at other besides these projects, your projects. We'll look at some others as well at this point that I'll be trying working to engage with some other people I know that are doing things that you may or may not have heard of. I mean, they're doing some are doing some pretty substantial stuff. Um, you wouldn't know that you wouldn't know that we exist out there, but we're out there doing some great stuff there and here in this city.
Cool.
Yeah.
On that point about down payment assistance, I just looked up Gastonia, their homebuyer assistance program. And they have a pilot program right now from June 24th, 2024 to June 30th, 2025.
Okay.
They're giving up $25,000 in funds if people go through this program.
Perfect. So what we do is we tap into them. And here's the thing. We tap into them. We start making connections with those entities and individuals.
Oh, wow.
We start making contact with those individuals and entities. Hold on, I got something. Okay, there we go. And we find others at this point because what happens is there are people who are looking for help that you can actually provide that service for.
Right.
You get a great benefit, and they get a great home at this point in the process. Again, you're looking to find ways to build that legacy, build their legacy while you're building yours.
Right. That's crazy. Just sitting in plain day side, and people probably don't even know about it.
Yeah, as I said, you'll be seeing some things over the next couple of weeks that are sitting in plain day side daylight that people just are not paying attention to. They don't know, they don't care, or what happens is they discount just sort of, or maybe just exceed the level of disrespect for our communities at this point, just by thinking that they can sit back and wait until they just kind of get to a point where they're ready to come back in and take over. If that makes sense. So we're trying to make sure that we have people that have a choice of being able to protect what they've got.
This stuff is out here. It's just right people who look at it.
Oh yeah,
knowing the right.
Yeah, and I'll introduce you guys to some other people. I'll introduce some people I work with, people I'm going to be working with over the months to come at this point, and this will help you to prepare for as you get into some of the other lessons as you move along. You'll get an idea why I'm taking this sort of highbrow approach, basically just to try to not let you get overwhelmed, because it's very easy to get stuck in that one pocket there and not realize that the development process is much bigger at this point than any of us would anticipate. It looks simple because we see the buildings going up. Doesn't look that difficult because there are people out there making things happen. But when you get in the middle of it, if you're not careful, you can find yourself really chasing you. And what happens is, while you may be trying to appeal to people now, you want to try to minimize the chase, particularly over the years to come. You want to get control of your situation and be able to monitor this at a level that is manageable to you.
Makes sense.
Definitely makes sense.
Cool, cool.
Oh yeah.
We appreciate your time, Walter.
Not at all.
Looking forward to seeing those who can make it out on Saturday.
Markel, give them
But-
the address. We're gonna go to Markel site on Saturday.
Oh, nice. That's close to home.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yeah, there you go. And we'll make rounds again at this point. I know, Martin. I think you had some other. You had the other situation this weekend and next weekend.
And these past 3 weeks, man, been crazy.
That's okay.
Yes,
That's okay. Hey, as I said, we'll make the round several times because we'll get a chance to watch the current stage, and then we'll get a chance to watch some in progress at this point. And then I'll take you to some individual sites of some people I'm working with as well that will give you a little bit that will start adding some more insight into how you deal with some of the infill properties.
Okay.
Okay, but
Sounds good.
I'd say for now, work on those. Mark, I'll give the address again on Ridge
The
Road.
address,
Yes.
the address is 2745 Ridge Road,
Okay.
Charlotte, North Carolina 28269.
Okay.
And 10:30 or what's the time and everything?
10 o'clock. 10 to 12.
10 a.m.
Yeah. That's gonna be for the note takers in case they're missed. They'll get a chance to see it. But I'm going to send out the email with that information as well, along with one or two other tools. As I said, you guys will have enough tools that you'll have an idea of how to approach this stuff. At this point, it's not going to. I don't want to overwhelm you, but I want you just to have the real key things at this point. The most important tool you're going to have is going to be that cash flow thing, forecast. Or an investment analysis tool. And I'll share a couple of different sites there that you can access that cost you nothing, that you can find any of this information that you want to find in terms of your calculations, so that you're not having to learn how to use one of these or Excel. You can just type a few numbers in and bam, it's there for you.
Right there. Cool. Definitely appreciate you, man.
Not at all. Likewise.
Just might hop on, man. If you pay for lunch this weekend, I might show up. So, you know what I'm saying? I heard you sponsor.
You guys, and by the way, I'll be reaching out to you guys, each of you guys, over the next several days between now and early next week to talk about a couple of things specifically that help us to prepare for this period ahead that I'm talking about, and even discussion I'll start having with you next week. So you'll have some insight into what I'm doing and how it may benefit you guys.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Well, look, you guys have a good evening.
All right.
All right. You too.
All right.
See y'all.
Take care.
Peace.
All right.